video, what we did was we created a couple things. We have our volunteer app. So we're really working on this create new user page. 2 videos ago, we looked at how to create a default avatar. And then now we've got the ability to change that. So we can, I don't know, add a picture of kids playing. But one of the challenges that we have is twofold. If we create a new user right now, so got to make Albert at least a certain age. Okay. If I create that new user, even though I've got this custom image here, when I go look in the database, right, so we just added Albert Einstein. We can see Albert, but the image that was stored is actually the default image. It's not that custom image like we created before, where we could actually prepend it with some kind of series of letters. The other problem we have is if someone hits cancel right now, so it returns a null instance from the file chooser, it actually generates a null pointer exception. So we don't handle that right now. Right now, we assume in our code that that the user is always going to pick a file. So let's do something a little bit different here. We'll say file, image file, oops. Okay, so we'll store this file in a variable called temp image file, and now we can test if this thing is okay. We can say if temp image file, does not equal null. So if it's not null, then let's try to change it. Okay, so we'll handle this scenario that if we get a null back, the user hit cancel for some reason, now we can handle that. So let's try that, make sure that closes things off. So we launch it, I click on this, and I'm like, no, I'll just leave it as a default. I hit cancel, it doesn't blow anything up. So that part works out great. Now the next part is we have to figure out a way, let's just close this here. So when we hit the save button previously, what we do is we load the user, and we're using the default user, right? So our default volunteer. So if we look in our volunteer class, if we don't pass in a file name, it'll set the image to be this default user. Or the other option is we pass in an image file, in which case we set the image file, and then we're going to copy it to our local file system. So what we need to do here is we need to know, well, do we have a custom image file, in which case we should use this constructor, or do we not, in which case we use this constructor? So the way I'm going to do that is in our controller, I'm going to create a little private, image file changed. So I'm going to keep this little image file changed. The default will be no, it has not. Okay, so let's go down here to our initialize method, and we can say equals false. Okay. so there's two things we've got. So image file changed equals false. Okay, so that's in our initialize method. So what we can do is, if the choose image button was pushed, we go down here, and if we've got an actual changed image, then we can also say here, this equals true. The image file has changed. Actually, since we don't know that we have a valid image file just yet, let's go all the way down here after we try to set it. We'll put it as changed here. So now what this allows us to do, let's collapse this, is now when we go into our Save Volunteer button pushed, when we go to create a new volunteer, we can make a decision. You can say, well, hang on one sec here. So if the image file changed, yeah, that's correct. So if the image file changed, we'll use one constructor. And if it has not changed, we'll use a different one. So if this is the case, then I'll also have, so at the top here, we have this file called image file. So I'll say image file. So depending on whether or not if the image file has changed, I can choose between which constructor I want to trigger, the one where I have an image file or the one where I use the default. And it's complaining here because, we've created the volunteer inside of these if statements. We had to define it outside of that. Okay, let's give this a try. So let's create a valid user. Make sure they're old enough. And this is kind of a pain always having to go back with that, to pick a valid date. So may also look at how we change that as well. So I don't know, we'll take a picture of a boat, and that'll be Barney's default image. If I hit save, now if we look in a couple different spots, hopefully we have something besides the default image here. And sure enough, we do. So here we see Barney Rubble. And you can see we've got a different image besides the default. So that's positive. So we know that works. If we look in the file system, we can see there's the image that we uploaded, right? It's right there. So it also moved the file, which we did in a previous video. So this is working well. So let's also try making sure that we haven't broken anything with our regular scenario. So if we create a default person, so we hit save. If we go back to our database, do we still have? So there, we were able to keep Barney Rubble with a default image, or sorry, with a custom image, and Bam Bam with the default image. So both of those have worked. And then the last thing, which is a small thing, not worth a whole video, but it's kind of a pain each time updating this birthday because we have to scroll back in years. So one of the things that we can do is we can actually set that initial value. So what we can do is maybe we assume the typical person that's going to volunteer for us is 18 years old. So if we look at this new user view controller, again, we have this initialize method, and we can actually control our date picker because it's called, it's called birthday. So here under initialize, you can say birthday, set value, today. And what's great is you can say minus years, and let's just say take away 18 years. So whatever today is, take away 18 years. And then we'll at least get to the correct date. So now if I launch this, it looks like 1999 is the default instead of 2017. So this might save a lot of scrolling through years for our users. Okay, and there you have it. We've now been able to do a custom image. Thank you very much.